Hey, I'm Charles Soule. You're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
Are you a sight for sore eyes?
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I am here with Britt. What's up, Britt? Are you there, Britt? Britt is having technical issues. Give her a moment. Then Cameron says, warning, this video contains an unapologetic roast of Lois Lane. Fans are advised to proceed with caution. You say that as if this is the only video where we rant about Lois. Anyway, so Britt, let me know when your microphone is working. By Randy says, SuperWonder is better than Clois because SuperWonder had to earn everything they got, but Clois had everything handed to him on silver platter. That actually is very true. And even Superman projects post Rebirth, and even a lot of Superman projects are just basically like the entire thing is like same thing over and over again. All right, but anyway. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about why DC are hypocrites, because there's plenty of things, especially nowadays, where I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Why are you guys like, there's plenty of occasions, in other words, where DC like went a little bit too hypocritical with SuperWonder as opposed to Lois, and it really undermines the characters. But anyway, okay, so Britt can hear. Britt, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're back. So anyway, I'm here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
What's up?
I'm sorry, I had to do the thing there. So we are going to be discussing the hypocrisy of Superman and Wonder Woman. That's something that has like that DC is kind of known for. Am I correct?
Known for, famous for, whatever, or infamous for, you know?
Yeah. So what we're talking about here, the thumbnail kind of gave people an idea. A lot of occasions recently where DC has been like a little, because DC is known for, at least the modern writers are known for being anti-SuperWonder for no legitimate reason. And then it's like, it's no legitimate reason beyond they have to grow. They don't want to grow up. But when it comes to this stuff, it's like, and especially with Wonder Woman. Oh, wait, sorry. I don't know why that image did not factor properly. But anyway, it's like, particularly when you deal with like Superman and Wonder Woman, it's like one of the problems is like the pairing. It's like, actually, no, it's not necessarily that. It's like that DC continues to prop up Lois, but denigrate Wonder Woman, who is the literal like first lady of comics, which is why it annoys me when I see like Wonder Woman fans glaze Lois, because I'm like, hey, DC is using her to shut down our character.
Right, and it does have something to do with the political point of view of things and the cultural point of things, as we have spoken on with racism and xenophobia. So all of that pretty much factors in. A lot of fans, you know, this is supposed to be fantasy, it's supposed to be entertainment, but a lot of real world issues bleed into this, to where, people take things too personally, and the disrespect of Wonder Woman, and to an extent Super Wonder, it has come to a personal point.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and then we'll be talking about how like writers like Dan Jurgens, Tomasi, Rocca, and especially Tom King really like make Wonder Woman like a, honestly, they treat Wonder Woman like she's a a B to C-list character that they can just shunt to the side in favor of who is the real B-list of comic book characters. Anyway, so let's talk about, so the other thing is like it's like, correct me if I'm wrong. We'll go over to we'll repeat this again, I'm sure. But it's like the problem with like with the way DC's treated Wonder Woman, particularly like Tomasi's a good example of this, where he goes, Wonder Woman demands the spotlight, but yet it's like, so I get it. You only like Lois with Superman because then you could just shunt her to the side while she bakes pies while Superman does all the heroics. I get it. You don't want to show them both being equals.
Right. No, it's having a woman, that is a true equal, that stands in the spotlight, that she might even take over the spotlight. They want to set limitations. They want to set, like, okay, that's enough. That's enough of you. This is a male dominated genre of, comics anyway. With Lois, her whole thing is that she's in a quote unquote male dominated field as a reporter. And she's, fought her way through the top and everything, and won a Pulitzer and everything. But the thing is, a lot of Lois's traits are told to us, but we never actually see it. So her awards, we don't see what she got the awards for, but when they do mention it, it's always she got it for interviewing Superman. And she's still aligned and romantically linked to a man. So you're basically saying that, oh, her success as a character is due to a man. Wonder Woman is not
exactly.
that. Wonder Woman, her success is being that true female empowerment. But it's also her downfall because you have these male writers, editors, or whatever, who just don't want to truly connect to women, don't want to actually push for proper empowerment. They want to have women, quote unquote, set in their place.
Yeah, exactly. Or in the case of like Rocca, want to be spiritual lesbians, aka straight men. I'm sorry, I have to make that joke every single episode because that is a ridiculously stupid thing to say. I'm like, what does that even mean, bro?
Right. I have no idea.
And trust me, we'll talk about Rucka. Oh boy, because it annoys me when the Wonder Woman fan base complain about Tom King justifiably, but then glaze up these writers who have in their own way done almost as insulting things to the character, especially Rucka.
Right. With Rucka's whole thing is that he wants to have Diana the way he sees her. She basically, as even our friend Jid has said, a female Batman.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest, Diana has been compared as the counterpart to Superman. But of course, Rucka does not like that. He does not like their friendship. He does not like their, definitely is against their romantic entanglements. So even with that comparison, he is against that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
he would rather for Diana to be much closer to Batman. So with that, he wants her to be mentally unstable or emotionally stilted. He wants her to have this dark trauma that she's never had, you know. And you can see it's not even it's regression of post-crisis, how, you know, yeah, she was younger, she was vibrant, she was a little bit naive and innocent in Perez run. But and you know, as
She was just
we see
starting
her,
out.
right, as we see her, she is learning and she is a little traumatized by man's world and things like that. And even in the mascara, you know, with that history. But she still had that lightheartedness to her. When you get to Rucka, she becomes like this standoffish, untouchable celebrity. You know, just because she has an open identity, it doesn't mean that Diana wants to be, she doesn't want people to treat her as such, you know, as that celebrity. She wants to be around people. She wants to just be herself. You know, she's not a celebrity. She's not signing autographs like that. She's not flying above anyone. She's not being snooty, judgmental, or preachy. You know, and that's the way Rucka's Diana comes off, a little cold, you know. And just that change of personality or a character, it does feel like you're reading a total different character.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the double standard in character complexity, because again, it's like with Lois, it's like it's like again, you bring up an excellent point. It's like whenever she's allowed to, like, let's say, fail or make mistakes and stuff, everyone's like, look at Lois, she's such an example of female empowerment. And I'm like, well, Wonder Woman, how
Lois
about
can be a she can be a female chihuahua, you know, all day long.
I love it. I love
All
it.
bark, no bite.
Yeah, it's like, remember, it's like for the purposes of like let's say our show. Remember when Gunn said that the Supergirl movie is supposed to show girls they can be messy, and I go, wow, that's the lesson you want, huh?
Right. She's, I mean, honestly, in the real world, the way that Lois's attitude is would not fly in the real world. Her being, you know,
Well, she would have been
stepping
fired real fast.
exactly her and the fact that again, even when Rucka had the Lois solo in 2019, he was like, well, he didn't want the Superman wife or Superman girlfriend on the title, but yet he still had it what that when promoting it is Lois is, you know, married to Superman. So that means that she has connections to everyone. So you're still using her marriage to a man. You're still using that male influence for her character.
Yeah,
You know,
and remember, it's like even in Rebirth, the Coward Superman book was praised because it brought back the power couple. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you mean the dynamic where it was like, oh, look, it's like it's the real star of the book and his wife.
yes. Or, you know, when Tomasi writing Clark didn't marry Diana because she didn't have a Pulitzer. And it's like, okay, so
Which, you
what does
know,
a man
I'm sorry, go ahead.
what does a man-made award mean for the world?
Well,
You know,
it
this
could
is
be he was
just
trying to like tell a joke and stuff. Oh, she doesn't have a Pulitzer. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't come off like that.
I mean,
Oh,
but
a
what
Pulitzer from her covering you, even though she knew you.
exactly? But I mean, what does that do for the world? It's what did she get it for? And it's just for her, you know, selfish reasonings to praise her, but she's not going out like Diana as Diana being a diplomat or an ambassador, and she's helping children. She's helping women. She's speaking up for you know, the less fortunate and things like that. She's risking her life, literally saving the world, saving billions, ruining her reputation, even for Superman, if you want to count sacrifice, you know, things like that. What has Lois done even on that level?
It's like, even remember when she had the power, she was using it for personal gain.
Exactly. Yeah, even with the powers, we did not see the story actually delve into Lois doing anything that other heroes has not done.
And then you had Williamson going, "Oh, now she really understands him," and I'm like, "Hello."
Right.
She's right there, Wonder Woman. But yeah, it's like that. That's what annoys me, because it's like they allow the same stuff with Lois that they wouldn't allow with Diana, and I'm like, guys, I get that you guys like, and honestly, this is again why I say this is more of like that it's more of the people that really promote Lois are not Superman fans; they're more Lois Lane fans. Because you notice, even then, they never talk about what's better for Superman as a character or anything like that. All they care about is he has to be with Lois. Probably because if he's not with Lois, she has nothing.
Exactly. And I mean, and that really showed in New 52 that Lois was put in the background, and she, they tried to make her independent from being a love interest, but her story still revolved around if she wanted to be, a figure, then yeah, she has to be in some way at least given a hint that she will be the love interest or something like that. But she doesn't have any other story besides that. And then, I mean, I don't know why Lois fans think that that is something to say, oh, she is the love interest. Like, okay, you're putting a woman in that position as just a romantic figure for a man. That's it. What else can she bring? Can she actually be independent? Can she actually be can she hold a solo, series? And the answer is no, because even the 60s series, it was her, the whole premise of it was her trying to get Superman to marry her.
And wearing blackface.
That too.
I love reminding people of that.
Yeah, so you have, just as I said, you have these instances of not even with marketing, nothing like that. But with Wonder Woman, she is too something. So she's too dominant over Superman or any other male figure. She's too intimidating because they don't know how to write an actual complex woman who she isn't an American. She isn't just this average woman. She has an entire mythos that is complicated in its own, right. But if you respect her and respect women in general, then you would take the time to put in the effort to understand her complexity, not water
Exactly.
her down.
And then Randy brings up, so under Charles Sewell, how well did that book do without Lois or in a reduced role? Well, here's the thing. That book was one of the top-selling Superman books of the new 52, well, of DC Comics, period. And it's really funny that when the Lois fandom, when they were coming out with the Coward Superman book, they were like, okay, so the Close fans were like, we have to really gas up this to show DC that there's more of a business decision to go with Lois. It comes out and so compared to 100,000 for Superman, Wonder Woman, and relatively staying in there, 30,000. That's quite a difference, right, Britt?
Exactly.
That's quite a difference. It's like, and all the books that justified it since then have slowly declined or flopped. Like Super Son, sorry, Tevia. All these other characters that are designed to keep that relationship in there have completely collapsed. So I'm like, what is the big... honestly, at this point, there is no business decision to keep this going besides the creatives not being able to grow up.
Right.
But regardless, so then we get to background versus the center stage. This is kind of more about what you were saying, because even with the Tom King run, even in the most recent issue, and we'll talk about this at the end of the episode, where like you have the reunion of Steve Trevor and Trinity. I know, sucks, but still, Diana is off at the side while Steve and Trinity are hugging. I'm like,
yeah, she is
what?
Definitely the way that book is formatted is definitely Diana is she does not have any type of emotion. Her dialogue is so stilted and so like she isn't even in the same hemisphere or whatever with them. And it's just Steve and Trinity that's really interacting. And you also see where, because of Diana's just mean spirited demeanor, how, you know, pretty much King is emphasizing Trinity is sad and lonely, but only Steve is the one that's much more happier, and he's the one that's more nurturing and stuff like that.
Which
And
I
it's like,
know, which here's the thing, as much as I hate the dialogue, it was funny hearing Diana say we're nothing to each other, even though it is extremely out of character for Diana.
it's still, yeah, but I mean,
Which makes me all the more in that issue. And again, we'll talk about this and the thing, but I want to dialogue it. The dialogue sets up that they're going to do my plan of undoing the timeline, but getting rid of Trinity. It looks like DC decided that this character isn't worth keeping around.
I mean, neither Steve either.
But my point is, if the I was reading an article that basically summarized it perfectly. They go, so Diana bringing back Steve and like creating Trinity, taking Steve's essence is what did that. So it's most likely the way to save it is to let Steve stay dead and then undo Trinity. And I love how the central point of this run is what screwed the timeline up. Oh my gosh, this is great. That's DC. If this is true and it turns out this way, that I will count that as DC admitting to screwing up.
I mean, this is pretty much what they get for literally screwing. There's a difference between purposely screwing up something like they did with SuperWonder than something that they wanted to enforce and it screwed up. You know, and that goes for even John. They wanted him to be the new younger Superman and also have him with, you know, LGBTQ representation.
Which is
But
fine. The representation
at the
itself
same
is
time,
fine.
the way that they've done it though is very insulting. You know,
But it's
because
like
you
even the way with Wonder Woman, where it's like she comes from an island of only women, of course. And I'm like, that is the most lazy ass way of saying it.
right. And
Well, and then
even
also, I'm sorry, the whole she loves everyone. That's why she's LGBTQ. And I go, again, that doesn't work. You can't say that.
yeah, love has different types, you know, different levels or so. So
Yeah,
her
it doesn't
love
mean she
is
romantically loves everyone,
right.
but whatever. But I'm sorry, Brett, I was interrupting you.
Oh, I actually forgot what I was saying.
Uh, we were talking about like Steve and like the and like I know what you're talking about when they brought in John, made him LGBTQ, and then it's like the insulting way that was carried all over.
Right. Well, it was done for a publicity stunt.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and just the way that his character has gone about and just his entire conception, you know, from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's like he was created to keep Superman with Lois. This is Dan Jurgens himself.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, but it's like, so with this, it's like, and the reason why I brought up Tom King in this part is because look, it's like the entire run when it shouldn't be that is devoted to Steve Trevor, and Diana takes the background in her own book, Britt. That is the doubly insulting thing, which I bet you that's also why DC is like, okay, we're done, because it's like you're not going to feature you're not going to like emphasize Wonder Woman once, even in a book called Daughter of Wonder Woman.
Exactly. You have Diana in the book only 2 times. And the first one was an insult to Perez because you are rewriting Perez to make Steve younger and have him, you know, talk to Trinity. Diana does not meet her daughter even as younger. If you want to try to pretend that this is Perez's version of Wonder Woman, you know, that has a daughter with Steve or whatever, She doesn't even meet her. It
Yeah.
was Steve, and
Well,
then
no, she does, and then she's eaten by Cerberus.
but she doesn't have like a in-depth conversation with her.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the second time is you have the three Trinities see Diana the moment that she is creating the little mud monster, and
God damn it, I love that.
she is crying, and all of Trinity's dialogue with her is, "Don't worry, mom, or whatever, we're gonna get dad back." It's not about her meeting her mother, it's about Steve. And it's like, why? What makes him so special? What makes this? How do you take a a character who emphasizes on maternal figures, the matriarchy, and how, you know, motherhood is so important, and flip it to patriarchy, with the whole "this nation is great." Steve Trevor is the best as a American soldier, or one of the good ones, or something like that. Emphasizing on the military, and you also say that this is about fatherhood. Wonder Woman about fatherhood. That was pretty much the raging
That
point
was
of even with the Zeus origin.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally what people hated. So you literally took what people hated when you said you were coming in and saying, "I want to." I just love how his idea was, we're gonna do a Wonder Woman focused on Diana. Where is the focus on Diana? By the way, Cameron says, forgot who aged John up. It's he who must not be named, but had a crappy Superman run. But didn't the creator also insult fans by saying, "Sorry, that John isn't going to be playing Fortnite," or something like that? Yeah, exactly. It's because that particular creator can't write kids. He can only write teenagers, which is, he also did it, Britt. So when Superman was like leaving, when John and Lois were leaving, for some reason, he who must not be named retconned that John has an adult content collection.
What?
Yeah, because John goes to destroy his corn collection. Let me put it to you that way, so his dad doesn't see it. And I'm like, your dad's Superman. But I'm like, why?
What?
He was trying to make John like he was trying to make John another kid, and I'm like, no.
I'm glad I never read that.
Don't read that run. It's the worst it's the Tom King run of Superman runs. I'm gonna tell you that right there. Just like the animated movie as well. Remember that piece of work by Tomasi? But yeah, so Britt, are you there?
Technical
Britt?
difficulty.
Okay, it's
Can
all
you hear
good.
me
It's
now?
all good. Yes,
Okay.
now I can. Now I can.
So what I was saying though about Death of Superman, yeah, with James Tucker, the producer, he outright said it, that he wanted Diana pretty much sidelined, because of Death of Superman being a post-crisis story. He wanted Lois, and he likes the traditional relationships more. And he wanted Diana to be friendly with Lois, as in to convince the audience, that this is the right way to be, that it should be Lois and Clark together. And it's like, well, of course he did not like that, because the feedback, of course, that he got was, seeing that Clark and Diana had the relationship, you see them. So you really didn't feel Lois and Clark. It was like, okay, Diana has much more emotional connection with him. But it wasn't until...
Also, she's never seen him without his glasses on.
Exactly.
Hey, Britt, I'm Superman.
Right.
What?
Yeah. The relationship was very forced, and again, that is the only way Lois is going to be important, is if she's romantically linked to Superman. Diana, she can go either way. That's what we love about their relationship, is that it is built on friendship first. The romance can it can be hinted at, or it can be, something that slow burns or be present. But at the same time, they are best friends first. With Lois, she really hasn't been Clark's best friend. She hasn't been the one he's honest with. Their relationship, it it's full of retcons. It's whether you ignore Clark's Kryptonian heritage in order to make it work, or he can't be around other female characters. He can't have other relationships before Lois or after her. It's things like that that if you are secure about your traditional relationship, those things you wouldn't have to put in place.
I think they put those in there because they know it doesn't sell. So they're like, no, it has to be this way. It has to be this way. Don't worry, overseers that handle the money. The fan bases really want this, even though it doesn't. But anyway, then you have the cultural bias in the acceptable woman where like Diana's like the badass. I'm going to say this, but I don't mean it the way you think. Warrior woman, where Lois is like the traditional housewife.
That's accurate. Diana is seen.
Because you know what I mean when I say warrior woman, right?
Yeah, and I mean, in both terms, Diana is that to a lot of people. They think of the Amazons as these sword slinging, big buff, muscle mommy warrior women, and they also sexualize her because she is this exotic woman as well. So, that is going into a male power fantasy. Lois is, rebirth. She baked pies. So, yeah, she definitely is a glorified housewife.
Yeah, exactly. And oh boy. But yeah, but it's like, it's also like, you notice how it's like to prop up Lois is like, even speaking of propping up Lois, this is what made me throw a rebirth issue of Superman like across the room was, and I promise you this actually happened, everyone. I was reading Rebirth Superman, or is that Superman or Action Comics, just because I grabbed a bunch of like Rebirth number ones that were like, it was actually in almost entire Rebirth, like runs of entire trade that were in the dollar bin at my comic book store. What does that tell you? And it was the one where Superman and Wonder Woman save Lois and John, and then Lois says, "Oh, this must be really weird seeing Clark and I together." And then Diana says, "No, this feels true." And I'm like, that is the moment where I don't care what Jurgens writes or what he has written, even though he's only known for killing Superman. That's why I lost all respect. I'm like, no, if you have to crap on something else to prop up your thing is a problem.
Exactly.
Or it's like with Lois, when you have to constantly change her into other characters, like we have to turn her into Perry White, or when you turn her into Diana in the case of Superwoman, that's when I have issues.
Right.
But yeah, but it's like, or Diana is treated like an overtly violent person. They are this close from having Diana go on a rampage and Lois being the one to talk her down. They are this close to doing that.
Yep.
It's like, remember when it's like Laura basically says, "I sent him here to find you."
Yeah, all of that is so corny and so forced. It's so, when we write certain things like that, like some type of fated, thing, it's never that, you know, cut and dry or whatever. That, oh, he found you, that is why, that's his purpose to come to Earth to find Lois, or in our case, Diana. No, it's never that. We always maintain that them finding their way to each other is a happiness that comes because they are reaching for the same thing. They have the same goals to help others. But with Lois, it's not like that. It's basically, again, her
Oh
helping
yeah.
herself.
But did you see this? Battlegoon says DC literally made a poll about vacations and said Themyscira is the land of muscle mommies. Whoever the intern that is running the DC social media accounts clearly doesn't like Wonder Woman.
They they do is be on TikTok or these other, Reddit or something, and they think that that is basically the Hello Fellow Kids. Yeah,
It
that's
really
it.
is.
Yeah.
Watch, it's like various old man writers trying to sound cool, but I'm like, you're not working out that well. But yeah, but then we get to is the irony. Wonder Woman is the most human. Well, first off, literally an Earth woman, like literally in the most literal sense of the word, she is an Earth woman. So everyone's saying, well, Clark can only be with humans or a woman of Earth. I'm like, hello?
Right.
That's the funny part about it. And it's like, but it's like, too many writers try to write her too much as like a symbol and not that much like a superhero. I mean, too much like the symbol ideal and superhero, and not as much as like a woman per se, because a lot of writers are male, but there have been male writers that have gotten that perfectly, like George Perez, and we'll talk about that, or even Charles frickin' Soule nailed it.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? The thing about Lois, I also want to bring up
Yeah.
is how I would say how post crisis, really emphasized Diana being, you know, as we saw, Perez really emphasized on Diana being human. That she is, as you said, or as we emphasize too, she's literally made from earth. So she is a literal earth woman, spiritual sense, breathed life into by the divine as, the biblical creation and everything like that. But because she comes from an island that's not an American island, she is a foreign woman, but she also is not human, which not only is a contradiction to the to life period, but also Superman, because they forget he is an alien from an entirely different planet. It would be different if Themyscira was from another planet or something, or another, not even another dimension. I wouldn't even say that. But the fact that Themyscira was created on Earth, how does being from an island not, that's not American, not being human?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
exactly.
to I guess the standards of what being human means is that you have to, be from America. Is again the whole subtle, not so subtle thing of the racism and xenophobia.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and the thing is, Britt, that's why you have so many writers have Clark basically reject being Kryptonian, James Gunn, because it's like they don't want to deal with that contradiction.
Right. They don't. I mean, just because you and even his slogan being truth, justice, and the human way, what does that even mean? Because
Yeah.
humans, what James Gunn and many of these writers aren't like, I think they don't see, is that wars start from humans. You have Superman's main nemesis is a human man, Lex. Um, a lot of the political upheavals come from the American government or the American, just that period. So how can you take it that humans are right, or humans are, that is the human way, that you are supposed to go by that. No, that really does not make sense to me. And especially when you have this world, this DC world that emphasizes on diversity, or should, and all of these heroes come from different backgrounds. A lot of them do have powers. They aren't just humans from Earth that, you know, magically gain powers. Superman isn't a he wasn't a man that drunk toxic milk, you know, from the Kent farm and gained powers or something. He came from a different planet, and he represents the Moses allegory. And to disrespect that, I really never get that.
Yeah, exactly. And then don't forget the infamous quote, Superman is what I can do, Clark is who I am. That's why so the funny part about that show is I recently watched the first episode. I don't intend on watching any more, but that particularly, and I get that that was like Clark, that was like the way Superman was being done currently, but I'm sorry, that is one of the most offensive lines ever. I can't believe that was ever done.
Right. And, you know, to also quote, you know, that show, and how some fans say, you know, you separate the art from the artist, or whatever like that, or the character from the actor. But it's the fact that even Dan Jurgens, from his, you know, his Superman Rebirth Convergence Superman to, well, the entirety of Rebirth, it's not only was the actor himself, you know, with the whole political thing, but the political divide, but also having that little, you know, racist controversy, and how DC handled, you know, the transition of Rebirth being much more conservative, you know, and all of that. You couldn't separate that. You couldn't separate the character from the actor, or the art from the artist, or, you know, the writer from reality, or anything like that. DC made it a point that, again, it became more personal. It became more real of what Superman was supposed to represent, and what he represents now as a character of the human or American way. And it's very um, alienating. And it's, you know, that is not the American way. American um, way, or the American dream, what built America, was different cultures coming together. It was,
Yeah, it's the reason why America is at least supposed to be called a melting pot.
or land of the free, you know, things like that. But when you have these certain um, groups of people, you know, in charge or whatever, that set these limitations, how are you supposed to, I guess, find inspiration in that? You know, how are you supposed to be free? How are you supposed to feel that America is actually free?
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the relationship bias and narrative protection, because yeah, but it's like the other thing that Britt and I talk about is, like, you notice that a lot of the couples that we've talked about in our comparison episodes are like the more traditional couples, like Harold and Carol. Batman has technically two traditional couples, because it's either him and Selena or him and Talia, although it's more often him and Selena, or it's like the Flash and Iris West or anything like that. But it's like the issue is like, what is, like, those characters are allowed to date other characters. Like Hal dated Cowgirl at one point, Barry dated Patty Spivot. But it's like, for some reason with Superman, it's always the be all end all is Lois Lane. And I'm like, that is just the biggest piece of narrative, like, limiting BS I have ever seen. Because you saw sales went up when they put him with Wonder Woman. It kind of goes to show you that all those years just keep saying he can only be with Lois is straight up BS.
Because as I continue to inform you, Jared, the perspective of Superman and his fan base is very much Captain Save-A-Thought. And
Yeah, exactly.
if you can't have a damsel in distress to save, the man basically feels worthless, or he needs that hype, of saving people. He needs that praise, as a man to feel macho or something like that. With Diana, she doesn't need physical saving. She doesn't need saving at all. It's just having someone that could talk, you can talk to, or she can talk to, and be on that emotional and intellectual level, um, and that understanding of as an outsider, that outsider perspective. But when you don't have writers who want to explore that more spiritual, emotional, and intellectual level of character work, then yeah, they just go by the these check boxes. And that's what that is. Superman has to show that he is physically capable of um, being the savior, and also this representation of the American dad, and how, again, the whole conservative way of things.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm personally, I'm not a super one to shipper, but a bigger reason I worry about it is I feel like shipping Diana with Clark or Bruce just used to diminish Diana's supporting. That's not necessarily like the way. Oh, Superman is with Lois because he loves her, not because he needs her to feel human. The Kents already did that for him. Yeah, but I'm sorry, bro, but that's what the fan base and the creatives themselves have established. That's why they, according to them, he's with Lois because if he's not with her at any point, he stops being human. That's why DC Comics is, bro. Sorry. And
Going back to the whole
yeah,
Diana will be diminished. The
yeah. Go
thing
ahead.
is, that is pretty much what we are talking about right now. Why she is actually the opposite. Clark and Diana's relationship has always been of Wonder Woman's perspective first. She's always been put forth. The reason why they're not together is actually because she can't be diminished. It's not that she will be, or it would happen to her. She wouldn't. That was part of Tomasi's whole thing, is that calling her intimidating, or that she demanded the spotlight. That he couldn't get her because of her complexities. So yeah, the whole relationship being thinking that she will be diminished. No, it was never a factor. She When you read any Super Wonder story or hint of such, Diana is never diminished. Um, Even Perez, he made it a point where it was Clark being her support. He was actually far more in love with her while she was trying to understand her feelings.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, Cameron says, sure, you could see Bruce and Selena or Talia in the mainstream, but the comics had a lot. Yeah, Silver St. Cloud. There's plenty of other characters, even Jezebel Jet. But anyway, Battlegoon says, to me, before Super Wonder or Bat Wonder, or even Steve Wonder can be established, DC needs to work on establishing Wonder Woman's mythos is important. I agree with you 100%. And by the way, it's weird saying that Steve and Wonder Woman can't even be established anymore, as I think it made some sense in the Golden Age, but quickly warped into Steve being used as a filter for Wonder Woman for insecure men. Yeah,
Exactly.
actually, that's an excellent way of putting it.
Exactly. The thing is, that is, and we'll get to it, but that is what Perez established. He established Diana's core supporting cast, her themes, everything that was important to her. And then I think it was like, yeah, in issue 15, that is when he introduced the romantic element, which was her navigating her new feelings with Superman. And again, Clark was not overshadowing her in her own book or anything. It was always Diana's perspective of their relationship. How does she, learn of her feelings? And even in what was it? War of the Gods, you know, how Clark was so devastated of losing Diana, and he had that whole big speech, empowering speech about, fighting for her honor. And one of the things that Perez also wanted to establish is that if they were to go further into their relationship to a more intimate level, again, it was from Diana's perspective. So, yeah, it was the things that a lot of the fans argue, it had already happened. You had that established foundation for Diana before she got into a romantic relationship. You had all that. It's just the fact that afterwards, when that was established, it was dismantled. And it
Yeah,
was
exactly.
dismantled.
And anyone saying that, like, even in the new 52 of Super Wonder, that denigrated her, didn't read it.
Yeah, a lot of the just any problems that Wonder Woman have presently, you go back to the latter half of Post Crisis and you see the dismantling, especially during Sacrifice and what is Infinite Crisis, I believe.
Mhm.
Even in pre-crisis, when it was where Golden Age, Steve was still very much hounding her like Pepe Le Pew and wanting her to get rid of being Wonder Woman to be Wonder Wife, but you still had that role reversal of him being like a Lois and wanting to get married, but she still, it was in a way of still making her that, um, as I said, the Wonder Wife. So the patriarchy was still full force. Then the latter of pre-crisis, Diana, the roles switched where Diana was the one that was into Steve and chasing after him and everything like that. Then at the
Yeah.
end, you
Oh.
had her.
Mhm.
At the end, you had her marrying Steve to, and they ascended to Olympus. And again, that whole
Is
power
he going to
fantasy,
Olympus?
right? You had this whole power fantasy, and it was everything was about Steve, So yeah, you can't, those projections of what they think what would happen with Super Wonder, no, it happened with Steve. It happened with even Bruce with uh, Justice League Unlimited.
And it happens with Lois Lane. She is denigrated by Attica. Says, in Kingdom Come, Superman retired not because of Lois's death, but because of humanity sided with Magog and his way of dealing punishment, injustice, which I hate. Refuses to acknowledge. Refuses to acknowledge as Superman going evil, not because Lois. Well, that's the way everyone acknowledges it. So there you go. Oh,
Right.
and you practically get your wish fulfillment of a Wonder Woman and Superman on Crime Syndicate or 3. Yeah, but that's still Lois Lane. And again, that's not what we're talking about when we're saying put Superman and Wonder Woman together. That doesn't count.
Yeah, it's totally off base.
But anyway, so let's move on to our next slide. Then you get to the core truth behind the hypocrisy. It's like, again, anyone that says Diana's hard to write does not understand the character, because she's not. Britt and I can tell you, she's not hard to write. You just can't put her to the sidelines or in the back line to highlight another character. You have to highlight her. In many ways, Britt, you can't. She's similar enough to Superman that you could ask people, just write her like Superman, the beacon of hope, the one that protects people, the one that's always positive. The problem is people will take those instructions and overdo it. But my point is being, if you take any of these guys, just write them like you would Superman, and then that's at least more or less on base. But Tom King, for instance, is writing her too much like she's Catwoman. Or
no, that's not even Selena.
Well, it's more like the bastardization of Talia.
No,
like the evil Talia. Have you seen the evil Talia?
I would not even say that. Honestly,
Grail?
I would say that Tom King's Diana is very much a generic Wonder Woman plus female Superman. Very much so, because he sees Diana as obsessed with Steve, as they want Clark to be obsessed with Lois. And this whole thing of, if my love interest dies or whatever, then screw the world. I'm, either going to sulk and retire from being a hero, or I'm gonna end up, you know, halfway into villainy. So I wouldn't even say that even Talia at her worst, or even Selena, that's not even that. This is definitely a female Superman, but add with the whole generic warrior woman.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like she goes against everything that these writers don't know anything about. And it's like, again, it's not really a male female thing. It's like, if you have other writers like George Perez that actually understand the fact that George Perez is still talked about today proves to me that Wonder Woman is not that hard to write. She really, really, really isn't. But you have too many people that want to say that, because it's like, no, the whole she's hard to write is writers that are like, oh, and by the way, to me, Tom King's Wonder Woman is more than just Tom Queen, tortures people, selfish, one for the boys, and a misogynistic. Must be made weak to make King feel better. Well, yeah, it's also true. And Britt, the whole she's hard to write, that's just the excuse for, if my run fails, that's why. It's like, she's just so hard to write. I'm like, no, you're just a crappy writer, bro. He says that about every character he writes.
Because he doesn't understand them. He's not even trying to.
Superheroes, period. He really doesn't.
Right.
But then you get to final insult for your analysis, insight for analysis. It's like Diana is more of like the independent female character, and they don't. Balagoon says, have you seen Bruce Timm's video about why Wonder Woman is so hard? Apparently, no, I haven't. But honestly, Bruce Timm talking about Wonder Woman is just about as appealing as what's the word, as Tom King writing Wonder Woman, honestly, because they're one and the same. And it's like, you don't need to push the male characters to make Wonder Woman cool. She's always been cool, Tom King. And it's like, DC really needs to like emphasize that more. She is the bit. It is horrifying, to be honest. And people still hold up that freaking universe. It's mostly Batman fans. You notice that, Britt?
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's like, again, they need to stop like overly de-emphasizing Wonder Woman to prop up Lois. And it's like, that's what, intended or not, that's what the SuperWonder Superwoman, she has powers, did for Lois. It denigrated Diana, and it cheapens who Diana is as a character.
It sure does. Which is awful, because again, you have this character, this female character, who is marketable, who is recognizable. I saw a tweet, actually, I think it was yesterday, that talking about, the difference between the general audience and the Twitter bubble. And this person was pretty much complaining that they were talking about, which is more iconic, or just iconic female characters. And they brought up Lois. And the person that they were talking to did not know who Lois was. So for any person within, again, that is not caring for comics or comic book movies, things like that, they would not know who these characters are. But you would know who Wonder Woman is, because yes, she is a symbol, but at the same time, she is a powerful superhero, a female superhero. And again, what she represents is universal. Lois being a journalist and basically just being a love interest, or then, in the 40s or whatever, as a damsel in distress, no one would know that.
Yeah, and especially nowadays, where journalists have a very mixed reputation with the public. Let me put it to you.
Exactly.
for lying to people. So it's like, and arguably Lois won her Pulitzer for a dishonest means. Anyway.
I mean, yeah, their relationship and just that whole thing is very unethical.
Yeah, exactly. So that, speaking of unethical, Dan Jurgens. So the big problem here is like, look, if you have to denigrate what people like in order to put up your thing, I have a problem with that. Where he referred to Super as fanboy porn, and I go, that's not a thing. You have a very shallow sense of Superman. And by the way, your only claim to fame is you're the writer who killed Superman. That's what people think of when they think of Dan Jurgens. He's the dude that killed Superman. So it's like beyond that. That's why whenever he writes Superman, he references the death of Superman every time.
Not only is, being the death of Superman, but the entire storyline caused or was going to cause the whole comic industry to crash.
And it killed death in comics, because if you notice after
Yes.
that, when he came back, everyone could die and come back to life. That's when everyone died and came back to life, including Wonder Woman, as a matter of fact.
Right. So, I mean, that story is really just nostalgic bait or whatever, but to be of true importance and depth of character, no, it is not. It's very much a gimmick, and it has lost all meaning of, even if it did have some type of meaning, it does not anymore.
And remember, he's the one that wrote the Action Comics issue where Diana saying, "No, you being with Clark is true," and I go,
Exactly.
"Screw you, bro."
Yeah, within that time, he was very honest about it, in that boastful, I'm having my way type thing. And he said that he and Rucka, their mission was to destroy, in a sense, Clark and Diana's relationship. So yeah,
comes across. And by the way, he is responsible for the tweet that got me to stop reading comics for 4 years. I was getting out of Alien Covenant and a really crappy movie. So you can imagine my mood was pretty down, Britt. I looked down at Twitter, and that's when Reborn had happened. And he goes, yeah, among other things, but it's like Reborn was intended to wipe out SuperWonder. And I go,
exactly.
Screw you.
I mean, for you to go so far as to create an entire event to erase a relationship, that says a lot about the foundation of the status quo and the relationship that you're setting, and how shaky it is, and how threatened you are for this relationship.
Yeah, and then when you look at people that like glaze Dan Jurgens' writing of Superman, here's the thing: it's generic as holy hell. Like it's the epitome of, I don't care that Lois is gonna get hurt because she's gonna save her. I really don't care. And then it's like, it's always like Superman's going to save the day every single time, because these guys also don't think that like superheroes can make mistakes. So it's like, but you want Superman to be human. Which one is it, brother? Oh, and by the way, Cameron brings up a good point real quick, Britt. Just a reminder that these grown-ass men are furious over two fictional characters sleeping together and not sleeping together in terms of Clovis. Isn't that sad, Britt?
It's sad, pathetic, and a little psychotic.
Yeah, it really is. And then his only like big claim to fame is that because BVS did a Death of Superman. But it's like, even beyond that, no one really references it. You notice that people will say that, like, oh, I like that post-crisis Superman. But even Jason Aaron, he says, yeah, I liked it, but I didn't like what they did with Krypton. He was involved in that, Jurgens. So it's like, hey, how about we actually represent Krypton properly in Absolute Superman? That was, again, that one conversation with Aaron is why I hold up Absolute Superman so much, because I'm sorry, if he's doing that, if he's intentionally undermining this, I'm like, okay, you know what? You've earned my support. But anyway, it's like with this, it's like, even when you read this Superman, it's like they treat New 52 Superman like an afterthought, where it's like, oh, the only time they reference him is when Lex Luthor takes the cape just so coward Superman. I call him that because and I believe it was Jurgens that wrote that book, right?
Yes, it was.
So in that book, it's called Superman like Lois and Clark or something like that. I think that's the title of the book. And Britt, you can correct me if I'm getting that wrong.
Yes, it is.
There's a tornado, and instead of going to stop the tornado, which Superman can do and has done, he hunkers in a bunker with his family and lets any number of people die in that tornado.
Yep.
That's right. This is supposed to be the ideal Superman. That's right. When people say, "Oh, New 52 Superman wasn't really Superman," yeah, well, he didn't let people die in a tornado.
Which was so funny because Clark and, Power Couple started with Clark and Diana going to stop a storm.
I'm good with storms. That's great.
So you have the real quote unquote real Superman stay in a bunker with his family, throughout a storm. But Clark and Diana, being a power couple, they go out to stop a storm. Yeah, that is quite a difference and contradiction of which pairing, in a sense, put the world first and is real.
Yeah, exactly, Britt. Because if only there was a saying that was said in the Superman Wonder Woman book, something that dictated their whole relationship thing.
Exactly. The world comes first.
Exactly. So, speaking of Superman, Wonder Woman, we have our next person on our on our sugar honey iced tea list, Peter Tomasi, who is worse than Jurgens. Here's why he's worse, Britt. He took the job to write Superman, Wonder Woman, knowing how he feels about it. He could have said, not really into it. It's not anything that he could have said, I don't like this relationship. And let's be clear, his first arc, while not perfect at all, compared to what came afterwards, is not horrible. And then you get the rest of it. And then I'm like, no. That's why I say, whenever I tell people read the Superman Wonder Woman book, I say only read the books with Charles Soule on it. Because actually, Britt, there was a scene that I forgot happened in his run of the book, where Superman and Wonder Woman are going after Gog, and Gog throws a car off a bridge. Diana lets it fall, and Superman's like, "The hell!" And then Diana goes, "Well, I trusted you were behind me." I'm like, Diana wouldn't do that, because what happens if he's attacked and the car is still falling?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, and also, a New 52 Superman didn't let drown people in the drown storyline. Yeah, I know. Isn't that hilarious? But yeah, it's like, even with this, she lets people fall, and it's like, look at I picked the top left image specifically because Tomasi is also the reason why you get that really crappy relationship reputation for New 52 Diana as the obnoxious warrior woman. Because of her. And it's like she interrogates like Lois with the lasso of truth, and I go, and Superman throws a fit about it, and I'm like,
why?
Yeah, why? Exactly. I'm like, why do you have a problem with this? She's trying to get to the bottom of a mystery that you're trying to solve, like the whole identity thing. And I will say the best part is when Lana punched Lois in the face. That was dope. But beyond that, it's like the whole relationship thing is strained. But he was like, well, if there's no drama, there's no story. And I go, bro, read the book.
I don't even know what drama he was referring to.
Well, drama means relationship BS. So remember when there was that alternate ending that leaked out of one of the issues that Superman's just saying, I don't love you anymore, but they changed it to, I don't know if I love you anymore.
Yeah, but I'm saying that what the drama that he supposedly wants, though, it does not make sense for them.
It's not even drama. It's just like couple fighting. That's not drama. But it's like, this is the problem, because you notice they replaced all the newer writers that were doing great with the New 52 with the post-crisis crew that made DC need a reboot in the first place. So I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, was there any drama during the Rebirth run? Not really. In the Rebirth run, it was a return to, okay, this is awesome. Gee willikers.
Which is kind of funny because Tomasi said that with Clark and Diana's relationship under Soule, it was picnic and rainbows. but yet his rebirth run was exactly that. He tried to have the whole Manchester Black darkness of, you know, with traumatizing John and having him burn a cat alive and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But the whole family, that conservatism and things like that, that was the picnic and rainbows, even more so than what he, that forced contrived drama that he tried to bring to Clark and Diana's relationship.
Exactly. And it's like, I'm like, brother, it's like, stop trying to force in something that wasn't there. Again, if you don't want to, if you don't really like this relationship and you're not going to do the homework, don't take the job. I hate when these comic book writers take the job that they hate. I'm like, don't take it.
Right.
It's really simple.
But at the same time, I mean, I think it's because knowing that the pairing was a high profile pairing. And even Charles Sewell said it was high profile. It skyrocketed um
career.
his career. So with taking this, you have built-in fan base. So you know that the book is a bestseller, but the fan base is smart. We aren't going to just, we aren't going to settle or continue to support the book. So he basically really heavy-handedly, destroyed the relationship on purpose. And I mean, it's very much known. And even to the point where when he was being, called out on it, he did block a lot of Super Wonder fans from Twitter to
Sure he did.
not call him out.
I'm sure he did. So, and I'm just like, brother, you were great with Green Lantern. Stick to that. You know what's kind of funny about this, Britt? It's like when what this is reminding me of is the whole getting rid of the Snyderverse and bringing the DCU, because the Snyderverse is, in this analogy, is the new 52. It did well enough, the Snyder portion of it. It did great. It was critically acclaimed when people actually watched the extended cuts. And then it's like, then they completely sabotage it, like with DCU, shunter it, and then bring in essentially a return to like traditional DC with like James Gunn's universe. And notice it's not doing that well. Isn't that funny how I said this like our very first couple episodes? Isn't it kind of funny how the ineptitude of the comics is 101 represented in the movies?
Right.
That's the funny part. So then we get to our next writer, Greg Rucka, the spiritual straight man. I'm going to call him that because that's pretty much what he's saying when he says he's a spiritual lesbian. But it's like his whole idea. I love where he goes, I want to put Wonder Woman with Batman, but I'm also going to put her with every Amazon.
Yeah. Okay. So, So with Rucka, his whole thing is that he's right and everyone else is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So his first two, Diana is the only child of the island, as a baby. So the Amazons technically raised her. They are her second mothers or aunts. So it's very much in a sense of that grooming type feel, when they watch Diana grow up. And the fact that the only time that Diana's bisexuality is brought up is in his run. He did it in Post Crisis where Diana was being interviewed and she said that she doesn't have, a boyfriend, and then I think she said, or even a girlfriend or something. And it was just one panel. Then he tried to, even recently in an interview or something like that, or a question Q&A, he talked about Io, and he said how that was something, but it really was from what he wrote in Post Crisis, it was unrequited, that requited that Diana did not have feelings for Io, but Io did have feelings for her.
Okay, but that's not evidence of it being like she's bi, though. I'm like,
right.
Oh, and by the way, Britt, so you mentioned about how the Rebirth run is the only time that Diane's, the only times that like Diane's bisexuality is referenced. Did DC Comics ever acknowledge that?
I don't
The
think
answer
so.
is
No.
no. Because he then tried to stick her with Batman, and like he basically, and you put it excellently last week, he tried to take Wonder Woman's relationship with Superman and project it onto hers with Batman. Because I got news for you guys. Wonder Woman isn't best friends with Batman. They really don't have a close relationship.
Right. They don't. Yeah, the whole thing started with, I think, Christopher Priest, actually. Um, he wrote the 18th letter, and, well, no, I take that back. So trying to have Diana close to Bruce was actually Justice League Unlimited.
Oh yeah.
And it was because, they thought that Clark and Diana were too obvious, and that's where the whole thing about them being the quarterback and the cheerleader came from. And basically, they are the perfect couple. So instead of having Diana just independent, or emphasizing her friendship on Clark, you didn't have to have any romantic interest there. They, I mean, how is that better to have her basically desperate for a date from Batman? How is that better? Um, so you had, within that era of JLU, Justice League Unlimited, within the comics, it tried to bleed through. So you had Joe Kelly writing JLA, and he tried to have Bruce and Diana sort of have this really out of the blue romance, to where they kiss on the battlefield and stuff and talk about their relationship. And then I think JLA 90 or something, that's when Diana goes into this dream machine, and she looks at all these scenarios of her and Bruce, and all of them basically come out terrible. So they decide to be friends. Um, but at the same time, they also, of course, talk about her and Clark's relationship, and she laughs at it. You have where, I think at the end of that, though, she is really close to Clark at some point. So I think this is afterwards. Um, and you also have Joe Kelly write Immortal Beloved. You have Phil Jimenez, his first Wonder Woman arc is Gods of Gotham. And he wanted Diana to be close to Bruce as well, and even saying that she would be into the bad boys and stuff like that. Had Donna be a mouthpiece in telling Nightwing how Bruce and Diana is cute together or whatever like that. Um, and Phil Jimenez also had Wonder Woman 170, where Diana had to coddle and reassure Lois that her and Clark were just friends, and basically if they had regrets, or if she regretted she lost a chance to be with him and he's with Lois. And going back to Priest, 18th letter, Clark was jealous. He, in a sense, he knew that it was a story where I guess Diana was blackmailed into sleeping with someone, but she didn't do it. Um, and Clark was jealous, that she was going along with the plan. He was still jealous, even with that thought, though. And he basically slut shamed her in a way. And she was like, they had the argument of, you should have trusted me, I trusted you, but he broke her heart. And that distant made them distant. So at the end of the story, it was Batman who comes to her with a rose and basically like tried to comfort her. So yeah, you had these moments where a lot of these early 2000 writers tried to make Clark and Diana's relationship very antagonistic, whether it is jealousy, Clark being antagonistic towards Diana, Diana making it seem like she never had feelings for him, and then Rucka with sacrifice. When Diana was treated as like a murderer just because she snapped Max Lord neck. And
When what's happening with Superman in that storyline is exactly why Bruce has contingency plans.
right. And even with that story, at the end of it, Rucka actually planned on Bruce breaking Diana out of jail. And I guess she was supposed to be very apologetic from what happened and also praising him or happy that he broke her out of jail. So that was
Right,
to,
because Bruce would definitely break someone out of jail.
yeah, so he was supposed to, that was the way for them to be close together. I think somewhere else Rucka was writing, of course, Blackest Night, where Diana disregards her mother and her sisters and everything, and she's supposedly secretly in love with Bruce. Even though they've never had any type of romantic, relationship. At the time, she was with Tom Tresher, so, and he was dead, but also with Selena. So that very much came out of nowhere. Um, but yeah, it everything that a lot of these fans kind of grasp on is very much just one moment out of the blue that doesn't have any type of foundation, and it is from one writer, which is Rucka.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like and it's like, remember when in the Cheetah robs the Justice League book where he reverses Cheetah's character development just so he can do it? Because I'm like, she's done with being a animalistic person. That they're done with that. But you're doing it again just because it wasn't you, because you have some type of ownership over Cheetah, which you don't, by the way. But it's like, even when I was listening to a podcast and even on the whole Diana being bi thing, and he goes, well, they don't acknowledge it. And second off, Rucka can't just come out and say that. It's like, he's not the creator of the character. He can't testify as to what the creator of the character is. He's like, well, because the sexual lives of the creator of Wonder Woman. Yeah, well, I have it on good authority from people that knew the Marstons that whole thing was made up in that stupid movie. That Marston movie lies, Britt.
Yeah, I actually see a lot of the fans grasping onto that, and it's like they really do not do research.
There was no three-way relationship between him and his mistress. That wasn't a thing, and they were not together. The two women were not together after he died. They were not sexually together. That whole three-year relationship was made up. I have it because, again, I talked to the guys that are behind the Wonder Boy TV show, which basically adapts expands upon Trevor Barnes's nephew was a big Wonder Woman fan, and they said, and they talked about it, they said, yeah, that movie freaking lies. And I go oh really? I was so glad to see it, because I had just seen a mutual friend of Britt and I's, well, friend is a very operative term, post a tweet for Pride Month about, oh, did you know that the creators of Wonder Woman, the two women were together afterwards? And I'm like, no, they're not. I just love when people try to project this. Again, I don't have an issue with Diana herself being bi. It's but just don't dance around it, and don't use it just for your own fetishistic purposes. Because that's not fair to Diana. You're doing exactly to her what you claim Batman fans and Superman fans do to her when you do that. Right. Anyway, rant over. And then you get to the other key issues about his book. About his the one Wonder Woman omnibus, I'll have a hole in my collection. I'm fine with that because I already have all the trades for some reason. But it's he I think is where the whole over reliance on Steve Trevor started, and everyone's oh, that Rebirth one was peak, and but it's actually, and you're right, Britt, I am starting to see more people reading it and going, why did we ever think this was good?
I mean, who thought it was good?
Well, back in the day when I think it was in the Rebirth time period when people thought, when it was projected as, oh, it's getting rid of SuperWonder, it's really good. Now down the line when people are rereading it because of the omnibus coming out, they're like, oh, this sucks. He puts her in a mental institution.
Well, I mean, at that time, when you have Rebirth being with the whole synergy with DCEU, and also the hate train of New 52, then yeah, they thought it was good. But yeah, when you read it again, it's kind of like, wait, this is very mean-spirited.
Well, and not only that, it's just bad writing because, like, even when you have, like, let's say, like, again, she gets put into a mental institution, and it doesn't make narrative sense when, okay, so let's try this. How about the fact that she's never been home, despite the fact that Superman and Deathstroke have been to that island? Have they never been there too? Have they been hallucinating the entire time?
Right.
I'm like, it does not make sense. And honestly, that is when it's more about wiping out a relationship than it is about telling a good story. That's why I cannot stand Rucka. And Britt, remember when he went on a diva thing about Jeff Johns? Because he's like, oh, I was promised I'd get to do whatever I want, but I wasn't. And I was so depressed and upset.
He just wanted sympathy.
He just wanted sympathy. You know what it was? It was a sympathy cell, because that's when his book was coming out. And guess what? That book was literally at the bottom of the 200 list. Well, actually, for most of its run, it didn't even rank. How does that feel? And then the last issue was like in the 190s. So I'm like, maybe the fan base doesn't care. Maybe it's because you haven't been doing regular comics, or maybe it's because the fan base is wise on you, Rucka. So anyway, Britt, is there anything further you want to say about Rucka, or can I move on?
What I want to say further is not appropriate for here. So yeah, we can move on.
I love it. I love it. Don't ever change, Britt. Don't ever change. Trigger warning. So then you get to, again, Britt, I don't know how you feel about this. I'm going to make a statement. You could say if you agree with me or disagree with me. Okay, are you ready? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This man is the worst Wonder Woman writer we have ever had. Ever.
You said the worst, right?
Worst.
Well, okay. So
there have been writers that have been bad or boring. Never like this.
I mean,
remember, punching her mother in the face, leaving Superman to die.
Okay, so he is number one. I would say Tomasi number two.
Yeah, 100%. Tomasi is not number two for his BS statements. I would say Jurgens is next for the fanboy porn statement.
Okay, so, well, that's okay. So ranking Tom King for writing the solo Wonder Woman as terrible. Okay. Number two is Jurgens, because he's never had respect for Wonder Woman. He also called her, like Superman's main squeeze or something in that sort of sexual.
And you guys wonder why I don't talk about Dan Jurgens on the channel that much.
Yeah, he definitely called her in that sort of just a like sex bunny toy, something like that. So Jurgens is definitely number two. Number three would be Tomasi. Number four would be probably Grant Morrison, actually, because of Earth
One. Of Earth One?
Yes. And number five would be Rucka. Rucka is number five. Well, he's really teetering with as number four. But if it's not for his mean-spirited attitude towards, anything and everything, that's not what he wrote. Or he would be friendly with people who he aligns with, as Jurgens, or as someone to get his way of things. If he wasn't acting like basically a little snake, then he wouldn't be that far. But yeah, he's very much teetering a little bit higher.
So hey, what's up, X-Men Superfan? So let's talk about this. So All right, Britt, what was Tom King's statement about Wonder Woman going into the run? Like, what was like one of the statements that he said? What did he identify as the problem with a lot of Wonder Woman runs?
So he said that the run ends up about the villain and the love interest.
What did he do?
Exactly. He made his run about the villain and the love interest.
But he forced in a love interest because Steve and Wonder Woman had not been together for 5 years. That's the first part. Second off, yeah, everything Diana does is motivated by Steve Trevor, including her creating her demon daughter and supposedly screwing up the timeline. And Britt and I will talk about issue 33 at the end of this episode, but it's like he completely
Britt will not.
What?
Britt will not.
Yes, Britt will. Yes, Britt will. But anyway, it's like he makes the Amazon so bloody and bloodthirsty. It's like, again, when like remember when Hippolyta is begging with Diane? I discovered this when like last month or so when I was doing a Wonder Woman read through of his entire issue to point out all the inaccuracies. Trust me, it was my cross to bear. But when he shows the contest again with the gun, he has Hippolyta say, "I've killed our sisters and watch them fall." I'm like, you've killed Amazons for this freaking contest? That's not what happens, brother. It's like, this guy didn't even have a remote idea. He claims he read Wonder Woman books, but I'm like, I have yet to see any proof of that.
Right.
You know what's bad when the fan base is now an open revolt? Like, again, the Steve Trevor hatred that I've seen online was to a degree there. It was never as bad as it is now because of that man.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, and you know what? The sales reflected. It's like, yeah, the Wonder War is like doing okay. It's not. But the funny part about it, Britt, isn't it kind of funny how as of yet, knock on wood, the series has never been above top 50. Never.
Oh, no.
Never. It's not worthy of it. But it's like, remember, his big introduction to Matriarch sucked. His big introduction to Sovereign, oh boy, did that suck. Mouse Man was a joke, and I mean that in the most negative way joke as possible. He created the worst kid ever, and of course he has the whole, oh, they're the Trinity, so of course Batman, Superman, and Batman, Superman's kid should have would be best friends with her. I would love if John and Damian on the side go, I really can't stand Trinity. Can we just get out of here? And that's it. But it's like the other thing. Oh, by the way, so Britt, so in a series called Trinity, Daughter of Wonder Woman, what was it about?
Dudes.
It was all about Steve Trevor. And even in the most recent issue that Britt will definitely discuss with me, because I had to read it, lady, they're hugging Steve and Trinity. And Diana is just standing there off to the side and does not partake. It's well established. And then she leaves Superman behind for Steve Trevor. And I'm like, bro, if these, I love how he went into the run intending to make people like Steve Trevor. Oh, thank you, X-Men Superfan, for gifting 5 memberships. That's awesome. But yeah, but I love where he intended to make people like Steve Trevor, and he ended up doing the complete and utter opposite. You have to be a truly inept writer to do that.
True. And even with having one of the interviewers say, you can't have Wonder Woman without Steve Trevor. He's, been there since day one, and he's Diana's Lois and everything like that. Yeah, no. Just
Fun
because
fact, apparently Jim Lee does not like that particular interviewer.
Really? Just because
yeah.
Just because you have these certain characters in the first issue of whatever, that does not mean that they are good, or that they have that certain relevance, I mean, any character from that first issue should be important then. So whatever character that was important in, or that was spoke of or mentioned in Action Comics 1, they should have that important level then, all of the Amazons who were mentioned in um, uh, All Star or Wonder Woman 1, they should have relevance to this day too. So that whole thing, I really do not, that is not an argument that I take seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like again when you look at it, and it's like again. Remember when he had Zeus, the gods say there's gods, there's men, but then there's Batman. Tom King is the reason why I don't why if you write Batman, that should disqualify you from writing Wonder Woman ever,
Right.
because that's
Right.
what happens nowadays. So it's like,
You know what's funny?
yeah, go ahead.
The trade for whatever, for Mouse Man or whatever,
Excludes that.
they actually exclude those two issues.
Well, I wonder. Yeah, none of the trades include those. Isn't that funny? That's the fun. It's like, and you notice how they just started doing trailers for Wonder War, and I'm like, but it's like it's not really that helping. Again, from what Britt and I have heard from DC creatives, is that DC themselves, there are conversations ongoing about the run because DC doesn't like the creative direction that the run is going in. So likely what happened is they said, okay, I wonder, this is what I think. I think it was intended to be much longer with this whole story, but then when they said you're off at like, let's say 40 or even 45, that's when he concocted the idea of the Wonder War. He's like, okay, I need to end the run. Here's a story.
So just throwing stuff to the wall.
Which I'm fine with in this occasion because at least we know there's an end. Anyway, so then the pattern. So what's the pattern of across these individuals, Britt?
So, I mean, basically, they don't know what to do with her, of course. They want Diana to be that, you know, accessory to whatever plot or, you know, story that they want to tell, which Tom King is currently doing that instead of the driver. Why is Diana in the passenger seat of her own book? No, I wouldn't even say she's in the passenger seat. She's like in the trunk.
very yeah. She's not even in the trunk. She's strapped to the hood. She's not even in the car.
That's true. She's not even in the car. That's true. Definitely.
But well, actually, no. In this case, it's a motorcycle with Steve and Trinity on it, and she's being dragged by a rope on the back. Because when you think about it, it's just those two characters. So what's the vehicle that fits two people? A motorcycle.
That's true. Or a little moped, you know, with the side car. Yeah. So then she is also used to have, you know, Clark show his loyalty to Lois, or, you know, to have this Diana is somewhat of a tempters or something, so seductors, which that is very much a revisionist thing. With that's not how Clark and Diana's relationship started. It has always been a mutual attraction. It's always been where Clark, you know, pursues her first, and when she shows her feelings back, then they want to rewrite it as, oh, he never had feelings for her, or she's the one pining after him. Then you have where she has to be sidelined or not in the book at all. You see, even with Mark Waid, he felt very intimidated by or challenged or gaslit by Lois Lane, saying that he didn't understand Diana, and he made himself feel that way. But when he actually takes time and effort to write Diana, he actually writes her fairly decently. And a lot of times we don't see her in World's Finest. We don't see her too much in the Justice League book, you know, things like that, because he has, as I said, been gaslit. But even with Mark Waid, he is able to write her in a respectful manner when he gives that effort. Because in World Finest 30, he wrote a Wonder Woman story and she was pretty decent in that. So he has that ability. But other than that, other writers who pretend to love her or like her or whatever, no, they're terrible. Like Tom Taylor, you know, with his Dark Knights of Steel. he feels like he's getting brownie points for having Diana with Kara, which is very weird because Kara was in main continuity, Diana's little sister, or Diana was said to be a mother figure. Kara said that Diana is like a mother to her. So to have her, even if you do change her name, to still have her appearance as Kara and you want them romantically linked for brownie points, no, that is terrible.
Yeah, exactly. For X-Men Superfan for 100 Argentinian money, thank you, says, I think if Trevor Barnes is rewritten to be a better character and take off the self-insert angle, he could be a great love interest. Also, Steve had more chemistry with Siegfried. I ship it. Yeah, but again, it's like there's two. But even with that, they did that so that Diana could kind of be a party girl, and I'm like, no. It's like, again, when you look at this, there could be cool relationships, but then again, DC just keeps stepping on their own feet when it comes to who Diana to be in a relationship with, because it's like, okay, so it's better for that to happen than for Diana to be with like her best friend who respects the hell out of her. Like, that's better.
Well, they honestly don't know what to do with Trevor Barnes. He was very much just a self-insert to humble Diana and he was, Phil Jimenez, his fantasy. So the way the character was supposed to be written, if he is to be written with, let me see. If you know who Keith Griggs is from Pre-Crisis, he liked Diana, but he did not like Wonder Woman. That is basically how Trevor Barnes is written. He does not. He's not too keen on superheroes in general. Diana is somewhat an exception, but not really. He just doesn't understand that world of hers. But he likes Diana, Ambassador Diana. But he is very much used to humble her, because again, in that latter half of Post Crisis, Diana is written as kind of snooty, as, as this princess, as, a little uppity or whatever. That's not who she is. So she had to be humbled by someone and brought down to show how this goddess is now a human or whatever. So I don't know. I would say if you brought back Trevor Barnes, he would be just the friend, working within the embassy or whatever, as a humanitarian. But relationship wise, because of that foundation that's already said where he is supposed to humble her and that whole conflict of him not too keen on her being Wonder Woman, I don't like that.
And I sent Superman with another super chat. All right, thank you. Says there is a point where there are times where Wonder Woman is treated in a way similar to Selena and Lois are treated in their romances. All three of them deserve to be treated like that. Well, it deserves better to be treated like that. Well, here's the problem with that. Lois is treated better. They have tried many different things, considering giving her powers and stuff, to try to make her exist outside of Superman. The problem is she can't.
Right. The thing is with Selena is that she is an independent character. Like, she can obviously hold a solo, regardless of how terrible the movie is. There was a Catwoman movie at one point. She is known outside of Batman, but Lois is not. She is just known as either Superman's girlfriend, his love interest, wife, or whatever. That's it. That's all. Or the damsel in distress. And yeah, she is a reporter. But other than that, the actual depth of the character, no one outside of comic books really know.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to, let's talk about the writers that really got the character, though. So we have like Charles Soule, obviously, and we'll talk about him in a little later. But then we have the gold standard, George Perez. And now, Britt, talk about how awesome George Perez is.
Okay, so of course he is the writer who reestablished Wonder Woman in the post-crisis reboot. You know, he's the one who established motherhood as the basis of Wonder Woman, that the matriarchy and all of these strong female characters within the Wonder Woman mythos. You have Hippolyta and the Amazon. You have the goddesses. You have Julia and Vanessa, Mindy, even Barbara Minerva. The way she is created was to show Diana that not all female characters or females are your friends. You know, you will be backstabbed, you will be hurt, and you know there are some um, female dogs out there that that are jealous of you. So,
Yeah, it's like, have you met women?
so wait,
Hmm?
reel that back. Not all women, Jared.
No,
Hold on.
but it's the joke that like women have drama. It's the joke.
Clarify. Okay, so yeah, so you have all of these different facets within his story. Yes, it is some things that haven't aged well within the time, but you do have certain exploration, even with the Banner Amazons. You know,
Mhm.
you have that. Yeah, it's exploring the racism, and it feels very uncomfortable in certain instances, but it is something that should be explored. You know, that some of the Amazons, that different experience, you know, with different tribes and everything like that. And then, yeah, it's just a whole story still circling around women. And even with Steve, his importance is based upon his mother being, she's the first to crash land on Themyscira. And she inspired Hippolyta to understand, you know, that women in man's world, they aren't suffering, that it has been changes in a way that helps women, you know, and that women are taking control and everything. That is why his reasoning of Diana's uniform, and also why Diana is named Diana. So yeah, Steve still has a very important role as Diana's spiritual blood brother and also her father figure. But the main thing is still Diana Rockwell, which is again very um I would say is very profound and emotional. What Tom King tried to do was bring up some random grandmother named Elizabeth Trevor or whatever, and it was like, no, that's not the same thing. You can't outdo the doer
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
yeah, no, the whole it was still made about Steve in that sense. So the random grandmother just does not make sense.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to Charles Sewell, I'm going to say it, modern George Perez, because even though it wasn't a team-up book, Superman, Wonder Woman, it was the book that I think gets her the most, because it's like it explored, like you said, the complexities, explored her world, explored what she has to deal with. And again, Diana is not diminished at all. If you really want to talk about diminishing, how about Superman, where like most of the villains you see in this, except for like maybe Zod, are Wonder Woman villains. Well, and Brainiac and Cyborg Superman, technically Doomsday. But my point is, it's like when you look at like who is really the focus of these issues, it's mostly Wonder Woman.
Exactly. And it was funny to see, you know, some Wonder Woman fans on Reddit say that the Super Wonder book was about Superman. And yes, at some point it was
The
that because
Tomasi
of the
one.
Tamaki and also the crossover. But that is the thing about knowing the behind the scenes. Because Charles Sewell let it be known that he had a Wonder Woman story arc or event, you know, that was supposed to be after the Doomsday arc. And of course, things changed. It was scrapped or shelved. and he was taken off the book. So to just say that this is a Superman book without knowing all the, drama behind the scenes is really unfair. But he still did his due diligence and had Diana as an equal. He even said it in the beginning. He wanted this book to really feel like Wonder Woman and Superman instead of Superman and Wonder Woman. And he did that. He, did as much as he could. But he understood Diana's, being that he is an immigration lawyer, he understood the perspective as an outsider and how Diana celebrated her culture while Clark was a little hesitant, and how they both gave the perspective as immigrants or, Clark as a refugee, and what that meant to them and how they can bridge all of that together. So yeah, that is the perspective that Clark and Diana are supposed to have. Is not one or the other conforming to, one way. And that is the issue also with Clark, that he conforms to just being Clark Kent instead of reconciling and balancing out his identity. And Diana as well, that I mean, she doesn't have the identity thing. She doesn't have truly that problem. And I do see some Wonder Woman fans kind of like making it an issue now of Diana Prince not being a name that she used. I mean, she used it. It really doesn't hurt her character if she used it at some point. You can go either way with it. It's not just a thing that should be banned or demonized. But she still knows who she is, though. She isn't assimilating in a way of Diana Prince is all she is, like how Clark has, where Clark Kent is all he is, and Krypton is demonized. No, the only time Themyscira is ever demonized if you have someone like Tom King or even Rucka. The fact that he wants Diana not to, for her to be banned or exiled from Themyscira.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's like, so then you get to what DC needs is to change stuff. And here's the actual stuff. First off, yeah, Wonder Woman definitely needs an event. She definitely needs a high profile event where everyone will be reading her book. And they also need to not have anyone that's written Batman before write her. It's like they have to have written a successful Wonder Woman run first. And you could say Rucka, he wrote Wonder Woman first. I mean, he wrote Batman first.
No, you definitely don't need Rucka. And for a Wonder Woman event, definitely not Wonder War, but you need someone who understands that really putting Wonder Woman in the center of the DCU. And it's not just in her book, it's actually having, it would be annoying, but have the crossover extend to, all of the DC books.
Yeah, exactly. But then you get to it has to be across all of them. And Tom King has said he doesn't like doing line-wide reboots because he doesn't want to tell other people what to write. But I'm like, brother, you're writing a character that needs a line-wide event. You could get away with that with like Batman because his book always sells and his stuff always sells. But it's like with Wonder Woman, I'm sorry, you have to bite the bullet. Give her, but then again, it would be a Wonder Woman event run by Tom King. You don't want that, trust me. So then you get to restore and respect Superman, Wonder Woman. Now, Britt, just so the nice people at home understand this, we're not necessarily talking about put them back together romantically, correct?
No, we were saying to respect their friendship.
Yeah, and again, it's like, look, if that somehow like backseats Lois, write better Lois stories. That's it. That's the solution. But it's like you need to have that relationship. And actually, how about just have a Superman Wonder Woman book like The World's Finest, and it doesn't have to be romantic at all again. But it's like, because again, these two are like even more so than Batman Wonder Woman, but by that I mean this friendship actually exists. But it's like there is a relationship between Superman and Wonder Woman, or how about a Wonder Woman event involving the gods? Call it War of the Gods. They had that, but by Perez, as a matter of fact. But yeah, but so let's see. And then there's like, but the other factor is like, and again, you don't have to undermine. You don't have to have Clark say, "Oh my gosh, you're so much better than Lois." No, we don't even want that because that's dumb. That's horrible writing.
Right.
But yeah, so then we get to fully embrace the matriarchal mythos, actually represent the Amazons really well. Because again, it's like they don't explore Amazonian lore that much in Wonder Woman books. Because here's the thing, I'm like, remember when Tom King didn't want to use the gods or the Wonder Girls in a Wonder Woman book?
Yeah.
Exactly. That should never, the minute someone says, I don't want to use this or this, they should be said, okay, there's the door. Because you can't, that's like saying, I want a Batman story with none of the Bat family in them. They have to come in at some point, bro. I'm sorry. No. And remember, he was forced to bring in the Wonder Girls. I would have preferred him not bring in the gods because of the, I'm going to say, shit show that was his 2 issues of Batman Wonder Woman. That's not going to be collected. That's hilarious. Again, it's still not collected. That is so great. Watch it be collected in like a Trinity trade or something like that, if that even sells well. But I remember where they had advertisements for Trinity, for the Trinity trade in the back of like every DC comic book, and that trade still flopped. That is, if there was a lesson that this character sucks, the trade's not selling well, is it?
Right.
But yeah, so Britt, explain what you meant by fully embrace the matriarchal world.
So basically, as we have said, and how you pointed out, the Wonder Woman book does not have her female supporting cast. And that needs to change. You need to add, even if you don't just go full circle with Perez, still not reinvent them, because the reinvention is terrible, but respect, their character, and have Julie and Vanessa back, have the Wonder Girls. I mean, I don't always see the purpose of them, but at least something, the Amazons, respect the Amazons. If Diana is now within 10, 15 years within man's world, her mission is supposed to bridge and open up Themyscira to man's world. Have the Amazons now interact a little bit more. Nubia as queen, that is her mission too. Why isn't she in the book? Why is it that, actually that is something to be said, that King, in the future, that Diana ends up as queen and
Not
Nubia seems to have disappeared or something like that. So yeah, that's something.
Watch, King will retcon it that Diana had to slay Nubia in order to take the throne.
I mean, you just really dig in a deeper racist hole.
King would.
Yeah, probably would. But, and also stop killing off Hippolyta. There's no reason for her to be dead. Is that you had that emotional upheaval with our worlds at war when she died, but killing her off now is just pathetic, especially when Diana doesn't have that same emotional response to that. So no, you need Hippolyta back. Just everything back in place. And
in other words, re-Perez Wonder Woman.
Essentially, yeah.
As I have always said. So then you get to write Diana as a multifaceted leader. Yeah, actually make her the leader of the Justice League, like for real. Because you in like name only they say that, but actually have her act like the role.
Exactly. You have Diana as not as the den mother as they want her to be, but as that emotional anchor and the heart of the Justice League. And yeah, she is the leader because she is a strategist. Yeah, you have Batman, but that is so, again, just that Batman dominant. You know, Diana is supposed to be the lead of in the lead of change. Superman is that protector and he is sometimes the voice, but Wonder Woman is the true voice. So to balance everything out, yeah, you can have her as a warrior in a in a certain sense. But you really emphasize on her diplomacy and being an educator. Because that was her mission is to educate and bridge worlds, bridge cultures, um, and she doesn't need to be a brute force. So the warrior, happy, sword swinger, no. Um, she isn't just a romantic subplot for anyone. If she is to have a, if she is to have a romantic subplot, it is of her perspective. And emphasize on her intelligence. The one thing that Tomorrowverse did was have Diana be one of the um, named as one of the smartest, heroes. And she controlled a lot of what was going on and helping her Clark as well. So that needs to be emphasized on. Her compassion, of course, because she is leading with her heart, and also just that she is a strategic thinker. She is, the Amazons are peaceful, but they are fighters. So they know how to fight with peace and how to navigate through war and conflict. And that is something also DC needs to emphasize on.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to the equal Trinity representation, because she is treated as like just there on the Trinity, when it's supposed to be her, Batman, and Superman are supposed to be the three people. And also actually treat her and give her the emphasis that Batman and Superman get. Because if I don't want to hear that she's like on the Trinity, she's the most important female superhero, but DC doesn't treat her as such.
No, I mean, the Trinity can go kick rocks because the whole
Yeah.
foundation of that narrative is weak. It's not a concept that has been a thing. It only started in, I think, really, it started in Eric Luke's run only with the fact that the title was called Trinity, and it was Batman being like the wingman, but also the third wheel of Clark and Diana's whole romantic conflict. So it really wasn't a thing. And then I think it was Wagner's run and Busick's run that made the Trinity a thing. But again, it was never a solid foundation for anything. We also had first thing was Kingdom Come, but that was at the end. And again, Diana and Bruce were not really close. It was more world's finest, Clark and Bruce making amends as bros. And then even with Bruce becoming the godfather of their firstborn, it was still like Bruce being a wingman or a third wheel to Clark and Diana's romance. So it's very much Clark and Diana are the romantic pair, the mother and father, and Bruce is the uncle or godfather. Very distant from Diana, though.
Exactly. And after all, if anything, she knows, she can attest that Clark knows a thing or two about getting his hands dirty.
Exactly.
I had to. That's why I included the left image, by the way. I just want to be very clear about that. And then stop using Diana as like reinforcing the status quo. And I assume you mean by this, stop using her to prop up like other pairings and relationships.
Exactly. Being that she was a mouthpiece for DCAMU's second half and Rebirth, like it was just unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, again, if this pairing, if the pairing needs another person to tell you how awesome it is, it's not a good pairing. Again, Super
Right.
Wonder didn't need that.
No, really didn't.
So then we get to the final takeaway, and then we'll get to our comic reviews, and then Britt and I are definitely going to talk about Tom King's Wonder Woman.
Sure.
Britt says, "Sure, we will, buddy. Sure, we will." And then, trust me, I'm going to squeeze out as much stuff as possible. And
Then you're gonna have to censor me.
oh my god. but it's like DC needs to actually treat Diana with the respect they claim that she has as a third member. I bring up the Trinity, Britt, and I know, like you do, that it's made up, but I'm just using the terms that DC themselves have set. It doesn't matter if like the concept itself is made up. If they themselves promote Wonder Woman as like the pillar of DC, when you have the head of Warner Brothers saying Wonder Woman is one of the pillars of DC, DC needs to treat her as such.
This is true. I mean, we should be knowing, something of a Wonder Woman film or an animated show or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it's like, no, because James Gunn doesn't want Wonder Woman. He wants, like, I guarantee you, he would want Maxima. He doesn't care. The whole idea about there being, like, more about Gunn being in charge is like, he's way more into the obscure characters. He said he doesn't like the A-listers. So I'm like, then why are you in charge of them?
Right.
But anyway, so then we get to the conclusion, but we've talked about a lot of this, Britt, but if you have any concluding thoughts, you can go ahead and drop them now.
Well, yeah. So basically, Wonder Woman deserves respect. She doesn't need to be a mouthpiece for any other characters. If you need her or anyone else to be a mouthpiece or a stepping stone for a character, a status quo, then yeah, you need to examine that character or that status quo to show that it has its cracks, its very shaky foundation. Wonder Woman is a very good character. She's complex. She's powerful. She is the embodiment of female empowerment. And she deserves respect. She deserves that, better content and deserves events. Just that what she was intended to be, which is an equal counterpart, not just to Superman, but just to all male heroes, to show that a woman doesn't need a man in that sense. She can take care of herself, and she is an equal. With pushing her to the background, that is sending a terrible message. So yeah, things need to change. I hope it changes. Will it change? I mean, it is Wonder Woman's 85th anniversary year, and we have not heard anything. Hoping that maybe in October at some point we will, but I don't know.
Well, let me put it this way: if all we hear is that we're getting a new Wonder Woman writer, or the new Wonder Woman writer is like Stephanie Williams, then I'm like, I'll take it. So, Britt, speaking of comics, what do you think of Green Lantern 30?
All right, so this is pretty much a setup of the new status quo, and just again, a lot of Adam's thing is that he does continue on with certain, with certain plot points. He sets them up and have them ongoing, but he also sets up more. So it's kind of like we have this setup and it's ongoing, but we set up this and ongoing set. So it's a pattern that I noticed that he does. He does emphasize on a lot of the dynamics and stuff, and you have this ensemble of different of the characters of how of even Batman being here and all of that, and it is good. It actually made me think of DC AMU Batman and Green Lantern and how
There you go.
So it was pretty good. There's different art style, but it's still glowy, still glossy. So I enjoyed that. Even with the whole, you have to have that darkness of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly would rather read Bruce and Hal than Bruce and Clark.
Yeah, that actually works. I even like where Bruce is like complimenting Hal on handling that kid in the hospital. So, you know what's kind of funny? There's an error in this book.
Really?
It's not on Adams. It's on the art. You notice, so at this point, Batman has the blue and gray, right? Well, in the bottom left image, he's black and gray. Here, I'll remove the headline and try to like zoom in so you can like see that.
I see it. I really did not notice that.
Yeah, you see that? I'm like,
Yeah.
when I was getting the images, I was like, wait a minute here.
Yeah, coloring and everything. That is definitely editorial oversight.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, because it's supposed to be the blue and gray. But yeah, I do love that. And that's actually not a bad way to think about the DC AMU one. I love where like Hal is like shining in the Green Lantern, the bat signal in the sky. And he goes, oh God, Hal. I love that. I like, yeah, you definitely feel more of the bromance. And I mean that in terms of friendship. I know you know this, Britt, but the shippers online will misinterpret it. By bromance, I mean just two dudes hanging out that like Hal Jordan and Bruce have. I really like that. So 7.5 out of 10. Okay.
The reason why is because, again, that pattern of it's ongoing, but at the same time set up. It's a lot of setups that he has within the issue. So it's kind of like it's kind of repetitive. It's still a lot of fun. It's just you have those type of repetitive things going on.
Yeah, and this is setting up a lot of what Hal is going to do in like the later arc, and we're getting to where you're about to be all caught up on Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern, Britt.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
That's going to be really fun. So then my turn. So then we have Storm 11. Again, that white suit is freaking Wonder Woman. So speaking of Wonder Woman, as a matter of fact, this issue felt the most like Wonder Woman because you have all the storm gods hanging out, including Zeus debating on like this thunder war. And it's like, and one of the things I love about this is how Storm, and this is a comment on the art as well. There's an image of Storm where it's going through her like origin, her being like a lowly street urchin. And it's like all of her like important moments of her history going through and like showing how she evolved as a character and as a person. And I really dig that. And again, all the gods talking to each other, all the storm gods like Beta Ray Bill, Zeus, and all that stuff. It literally feels like Wonder Woman. I'm like, wow, that is awesome. I cannot. And again, Britt, just look at the coloring on this.
Yes, it is very beautiful.
So what did you think of issue 11?
So yeah, it's everything about Storm is not afraid to show how powerful she is, but it isn't in that obnoxious way that King has it, where she's cutting off limbs or that she's punching or that physical abuse in a sense. It is very much just showing it has that spirituality that, you know, Wonder Woman should have, but also what makes Storm the character that she is, and how just because she is that powerful goddess, she's still very much human, you know, and that is what is appreciative with this book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really, really good. This is one of the books I highly recommend. So we're approaching the end of this because this was 12 issues, and then the relaunch happened, and the relaunch they're currently in the middle of. I'm gonna just jump into the relaunch to keep doing this because this is like I love Storm's book. All right, Britt. So let's talk about this. I had to change the last part because I'm like, do I want to have a swear word on here? But all right. So here's the thing about this issue.
I don't even know why you said that's an insult.
I know, but they try and establish her as a mom in this issue, so that's why. So
was she? If that was establishing as a mom, I don't know who. Mama, you
yeah. But anyway, So that's the image I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, where she stands on the side while he's hugging her, says they don't have time for like a hugs or join in. I'm like, just hug them once. How long does a hug take? Number one. Number two, I love, so in the top right, top left image, I love the epitome because Steve is talking about how Diana sees everything with love. She sees everything with love. Look at Diana's face.
Yeah, she's just
That's
blank.
not love. She's like super dark. And then, yes, she leaves Superman to die. And Superman's like, oh, she has a plan. She must have a plan or she left me to die. And I'm like, Diana would never leave. She doesn't trade lives. I'm like, what do you do? Remember when King tried to do a deep dive into a shallow pool about their relationship, Britt?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, so here's the thing about this. I think that this issue is set. So, Britt, what was my theory on how they're going to retcon Trinity?
But it's all a dream.
No, that's not all a dream. Mine was they're going to go back in time to undo everything, and that's going to result in Trinity no longer existing because she was created after Steve died. So my whole thing seems to be backed up with this dialogue because, first off, I do like what I do think it's stupid but funny when Steve goes, oh, isn't this nice? We're all together and stuff. And then Diana says, we're not together. We're not anything to each other. And he goes, because you are the dreamer and Lizzie and I are the dream. And dream we have to wake up to. So I'm like, okay, so you're telling. And so what this kind of sounds like is Diana knows they're going to go to the Fates to make them undo it. And then undoing it is going to get rid of Trinity, like retcon her out of existence. And then, so Britt, did I miss something where they recanonize the Zeus origin? Because then Zeus says, I am your father. And she goes, you're the God that made this lie. And I'm like, if she's referring to the lie about the Zeus origin, then she would say that lie, not this lie. But I think Tom King is going to somehow retcon that Zeus was the one directing Emily the entire time.
Yeah, I don't even know what he's talking about because the Zeus origin should just not be in existence, I guess.
Yeah, because the new history of the DC universe says the Clay origin.
And honestly, just going back to the whole Steve is a dreamer and Diana, and so again, you are emphasizing a male power fantasy that Diana is just a dream girl to Steve. It's not her being who she is again in that perspective of her story. It is Steve's story. That is what you're saying, that this whole thing of him being the savior, being saved, whatever, this is his dream, but it's not Diana's dream.
Yeah, exactly. And then Cameron says, I already have the champagne ready for when we can finally celebrate. Oh, when he's announced as ending the run, I'm debating, Britt, should we do the episode celebrating his leaving the book when it's announced or when he actually leaves?
When he actually leaves.
That was my thinking because I'm like, you don't know if he's going to do more BS stuff, but I think that would be a good time to do it. Well, like this way, we'll still celebrate, but we'll do the big celebrate. We'll do definitely a post-mortem stream about this, and I'll probably but I am definitely going to be doing a Wonder Woman Wednesday probably this week about this because I have to talk about the Wonder War being like he marketed it as the big Wonder Woman event, but it's nothing. It's not even a war. They're just hanging out.
I don't know what it's supposed to be, actually. It's not like this war or whatever. The Amazons are already dead, so it's not really a war.
Also, how is that? So King keeps going back and forth on whether or not that's a kryptonite ring or a Green Lantern ring, because that's not acting like a kryptonite ring.
Or King is dumb enough to think that a lantern ring, just because it's green, will affect Clark.
Probably. Honestly, with this man's track record with Green Lantern, I would not be surprised. But it's it's one of these things that I'm reading this and I'm like, yeah, you really don't care about Diana. You may claim you do, but you clearly don't. And also, can I say,
He never claimed he did.
well, yeah, no, he did. He did. Trust me. Because he said his intention of this run was to convince people Wonder Woman's awesome. Well, you failed on that.
I mean, he said that, but remember, he did not want this book.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
was not caring for Wonder Woman at all.
All right, can I say I hate Wonder Woman's costume in this? Like the shoulder things, the pants are okay. I don't like the black on the side or the collar. It's like all this is like this is just generic Xena.
And the hair too, the skunk hair.
Yeah, skunk hair. God damn it, I love it. I love the way you refer to things, Britt. And Britt, so this is my rating, and you tell me if this is like appropriate as a rating.
I mean, if you could go lower, then yeah, but it's fine.
Yeah, I figured that it's kind of would be as appropriate as I can get, because that's about, because always it would be. Actually, I probably could go lower. Assume I could go lower, but it's
I mean, you could just use the skull emoji.
Yeah, probably. That's probably what I'll use next month. But yeah, it's like all of this is just get to the solicits for when it's Wonder Woman's 85th and just announce he's leaving the book so we can end this. So we can old Yeller this run. Take it out back and shoot it in the freaking head as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Again, Britt, say what you want. We talked a lot about really bad Wonder Woman writers in this episode, but I'm gonna reaffirm, none of them are worse than Tom King. I'm just gonna tell you, personally, that's my belief.
He's worse, for Diana's, current state, but it's really it's a mix of a lot of things. I honestly will blame DCEU Rucka first, because we wouldn't have Tom King emphasizing so much on Steve if it wasn't for that. Because his main inspiration was the Wonder Woman movies, and especially 84, and just that whole thing of Rucka 2. So yeah, it's a mix. I would say that he just took what was already being seeded and let it grow to something basically of a giant weed.
Yeah, it'll be another week, but luckily, if they retcon out Trinity, Britt, this whole thing becomes a thing that we can pretend never existed. We can, even if they don't make it a dream, we can pretend it's a dream then.
Right.
So it should be the best. But yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it. We're gonna wrap it up. But so Britt, do you have any stories you want to tease us with?
All right. So of course I have uploaded chapter 3 of Odyssey. So fanfiction was .net was giving me issues for some reason, or I don't know. But I had to split the chapter in two. So it is chapter 3, but it's part 2 for chapter 4. Shelter verse chapter 4 is almost complete. That will be uploaded soon, probably within the next week or two. And then I have 3 little side quest request stories that I've done. Some more tonight chapters that I'll be done will be finishing and uploading probably by this weekend. And chapter 2 of the adoption story for Diana. I'm thinking of, I haven't uploaded chapter 1 yet. I'm thinking of doing 2 chapters closely together. But yeah, a lot of stories will be uploaded soon. It's about to be summer, so I will have a little bit more time to dedicate to stories. Also, within doing more Wonder Woman Twitter threads and seeing, all of the wonderful art on the Instagram page. And of course, we are waiting for updates for Wonder Woman DCU. Yeah, for what that is supposed to be, again, Wonder Woman is supposed to have a solo within 2028.
Sure, she is.
So, I mean, yeah, sure. So we should be getting some information at least by, I would say, next month, June or July. I would think. If not that, I mean, it is her 85th anniversary, so I would think that in her 85th anniversary month, which is October, we would definitely have something to be said.
Yeah, as for me, so next week's episode, Britt and I are going to be doing a couples comparison. We're going to do a very unique one. Superman and Wonder Woman compared to Ultraman and Superwoman of Earth 3. So we're going to, and we can use that to talk about the whole evil Superman and evil Wonder Woman trope that needs to die, the slow, painful death. Wonder Woman Wednesday, I'm going to talk about the Wonder War and why it's the biggest, like, non-event event ever, because it's like the most like non-important storyline ever. Under Two Capes, we're going to be talking about like I think I have to we're going to be talking about the misconception about Batman being just a rich guy that beats up poor people. And then in terms of Super Pals, Robert and I are going to talk about Captain Atom. But anyway, stay work, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. And Steve Trevor, Steve Never. He belongs 6 feet underground. Zois and Max about for life. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.